I got nothing to say. Step out of the sun if you keep getting burned. Step out of the sun because you've learned. On the outside, always looking in, will I ever be more than I've always been? Cause I'm tapping on the glass, waving through a window. I try to speak but nobody can hear, so I wait around for an answer to appear while I'm watching people pass. I'm waving through a window.
And welcome to the Florida Theater Conference, How to Move Forward webinar. I'm Marcy Duncan, and I would like to thank you so much for joining us as we celebrate theater together in this very unique time in history. First, a welcome from a very special guest, two-time Tony nominee, Laura Osnes.
Hello to the incredible artists and educators at the Florida Theater Conference. I'm Laura Osnes, and I'm so excited to be welcoming you guys to this inspiring and educational session on how to move forward in the midst of a pandemic. What theater is in the time of change. First and foremost, we are in unprecedented times, and the arts as we know it have completely been put on pause, and we are all in the same boat trying to figure out how to move on, how to move forward. What is our place in the midst of this season? I think the arts have always been a source of hope and positivity, an escape and an inspiration, especially during times of trouble and hardship. So I think the world needs art and arts education now more than ever. So as we're all trying to figure out how to get innovative in ways to stay connected and continue to share our gift, I want to applaud you guys for already just being willing to be flexible and think outside the box and change your lesson plans and learn new skills to adapt to the season that we're in. I've been very, very encouraged actually to see everything that the arts industry is doing already to continue to share gifts and share music and bring hope and joy during this time. I hope you can continue to challenge each other, to bounce ideas off of each other, and just get innovative. Think outside the box with how we can move forward, because I think it's going to be quite a few months still before people feel comfortable and confident to gather in large groups to both create art and spectate art. So we have a big responsibility ahead of us, but I'm excited. I think we're going to come out of this more empathetic, grateful, strong, complex, and compassionate, empathetic artists and human beings. So hang in there, and good luck, and thank you for all of the good that you guys are doing. It's so important that we continue to share our gifts and be lights during this time. So until we see each other on stage again, enjoy.
We appreciate you making time to gather with us today, and we will honor your time by keeping today's session as close to an hour as we can. We hope that you will find this hour enlightening, engaging, and educational, and you will receive it in the way that we will give it, with all of our hearts. At this time, I would like to introduce to you the Florida Theater Conference President, Gary Cadwallader.
Good morning, and thank you, Marcy, and thank you, Laura, for your encouraging words of wisdom. A special thank you to Broadway Artist Alliance for connecting us with Laura. First, my pronouns are he, him, his. I would like to acknowledge the diverse and rich pool of theater artists that we have here in Florida and the extraordinarily bold and colorful tapestry we create. Thank you, all of you, for supporting our artists and educators of color and for self-examining prejudices, recognizing systemic racism in our theater institutions and programs, and actively seeking anti-racism strategies. I would also like to acknowledge the indigenous peoples in Florida on whose land we now live, including the Muskogee, Creek, Pensacola, Appalachie, Timucua, Tocoboga, Calusa, and those lands who I personally inhabit, the Yega, Tequesta, Seminole, and Mayaimi tribes. I'm so pleased to see so many of you joining us today as we gather to honor and recognize one another in this challenging time. The entire FTC board celebrates your artistic work and to empathize with the uncertainties that you are facing. You are navigating an ebb and flow of a new reality in which the horizon line is still not yet clear. We celebrate your inventiveness, your willingness to adjust your goals, plans, and lesson plans, and adapt new strategies and methodologies for considering what theater is. Florida Theater Conference is an annual celebration of our artistry and craft. As we recognize our 65th anniversary this year, we accept that our conference will look very different in 2020. We are working diligently to determine how to safely serve, nurture, and connect all the theater artists to make our conference vital. While it's difficult to determine with finality what our conference will look like, we are embracing change and finding an innovative way to celebrate performance, hold auditions, and extend learning for everyone. While at our core, we are an in-person art form, we appreciate that this year gives us an opportunity to examine our creativity in a transformative way. Thank you to you, our invaluable FTC members, who encourage us to strengthen and refine our process every year, and we look forward to hearing your ideas and concerns as we move forward. Our wonderful Executive Director, Stephen Butler, will engage you at the end of this hour to share with you how we'd like to hear from you. And finally, I would like to acknowledge our consistently hardworking and engaged board of directors from all corners of our state who remain committed to Florida artists and educators. Thank you especially to Elizabeth Horn and your team, Marcy Duncan and Brad Brady, for working on this convening. And now back to our incredibly thoughtful and compassionate Vice President, Marcy Duncan.
Well, now you are in for a special treat. A group of artists from every division of the Florida Theater Conference has come together to create an original devised performance. Here to introduce the piece is Elizabeth Brindell Horn, Chair of the Youth Theater Division.
Thank you, Marcy. My name is Elizabeth, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I'm honored to share this performance piece with you today. It's directed by myself and Maria Katsadoris and edited by Sage Tokach. Prior to this meeting, we asked all of our FTC members to submit a written response to the prompt, Theater Is. Thank you to everyone who submitted responses. From these responses, we crafted the original performance you will see today. This piece features the amazing creative input and talent of 14 individuals from all of FTC's divisions, new artists that are new to me that I'm proud to now call collaborators and friends. These are artists from our divisions, including youth theater, middle school, high school, college, university, students and faculty, our community theater festival, and our inclusion festival. At the end of the performance, Maria, Sage, and I will briefly share with you how we developed this piece and how you can use these strategies yourself. But first, as you watch, I encourage you to reflect on what theater is to you.
Theater is. Theater is.
Theater is.
Theater is.
Theater is. Theater is. Theater is the breaking down of emotional walls built up by individuals.
Theater is the ability to express yourself in the most raw form.
Theater is letting your true soul take flight through freedom from inhibition. Theater is. Theater is.
love.
Passion.
In pain. Wildly misunderstood.
Holy. Mysterious. Whenever I talk to my friends about theater, all I hear is their favorite musical or the latest song they've added to their rep book. I try to bring up a new play I've read or watched, but I just get a blank stare. I hope that educational theater can advance to provide more diverse and contemporary plays to students, so there is a balanced appreciation of both plays and musicals on and off Broadway.
Theater to me is what helps me feel happy.
A place where you can be yourself and have fun and be silly and make new friends.
My favorite plays are often ones that center around people and their lives, that make you laugh and cry, almost at the same time. Because it isn't one genre, comedy or tragedy. What theater means in my life is bringing truth into every performance and seeing and understanding the reality in which in each show I watch.
I can always read my favorite play, and that, my closest friends and inspiring directors can cure even the darkest of my thoughts. No matter what I'm feeling, I know there will always be theater.
Theater is something that everyone should try once.
Theater is. Theater is. Theater is.
I use theater to be creative and be myself because it makes me feel safe. Everyone can be safe. Theater's a safe place and an outlet for people to be themselves and forget about the pressures of daily life. Theater is expression and home. Theater is a thing that helps someone discover who they really are and be the person they've always dreamed of. Theater is healing.
I hope one day theater will be as open to me as I am to it.
Theater is my air. Theater is my language of choice. Theater is what I make it. Theater is life affirming. Theater means the ultimate expression of who I am. I believe in the power of theater.
Theater is
A slice of life.
a state of mind.
Storytelling with mind, the body, and soul.
It's a way for me to express my creativity, make lasting friendships, and just have fun.
A place for efficiency, possibility, words on worlds.
An invitation to create. Theater is fun.
Brimming with emotions and change they may beget, stories and devotions the world should not forget. A gathering to share stories about who we are. A gathering to tell stories about life's journey. Theater's something I've been doing since I was 5. It's something I love doing and a great escape from reality. Theater is creative. I hope that one day theater is something that everyone can enjoy.
Theater is a way to express your feelings through actions and words.
Theater is a place where you can escape from reality.
And dialogue can be had respectfully.
Theater is a place where you can explore different personas or characters different from who you are.
Theater is collective creation. It's the playwright's words, the director's vision, the actor's interpretations, and the audience's collective sighs as they see something of themselves in what they see on stage.
It's a community of inclusion where everybody is accepted.
Holding a mirror up to society and enriching our humanity.
Theater is a place where you can present topics or issues, but in a different light.
So now we all need to still be in this together, even as we have to remain apart. Theater is connection. It allows for a connection between the actors and their audiences, their community.
Theater is unique.
Enduring.
Adaptable.
Essential.
Theater is alive and well in the state of Florida.
Theater is a container for expression, family, and change.
Imaginary risk realized in real-life action.
Theater
is my
superpower.
Theater is we.
Theater is us.
Theater is all.
I'm Elizabeth. I'm an assistant professor of theater at University of Central Florida, and I was one of the directors of the piece that you just watched.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria Katsidouris. I'm the curriculum manager for Orlando Repertory Theater, and I co-directed the piece alongside Elizabeth.
And I am Sage Tokash. I'm a graduate student at UCF in the Theater for Young Audiences MFA program, and I was the video editor.
So we wanted to share a little bit of our process with you, and we'll provide greater details in a written document that we'll give you access to at the end of this chat. But we really just wanted to describe in a bit more detail what it means to devise and create theater in a virtual space. We all love devising, but we feel at home in a theater. So some of the things that we're exploring in this process is, how do we build ensemble? How do we capture creative play in rehearsal? How do we use Zoom creatively in performance? How do we accommodate varying levels of technical literacy? And how do we create efficiently, recognizing that nobody wants to spend all day in Zoom? So we'll share a quick overview of that process now. The first thing that we did was we collected text for our performance. And for that, we reached out to all of you and we asked you to provide written text in response to the prompt, "Theater is."
From there, we moved into rehearsals. We only had 2 one-hour rehearsals with our ensemble, and we used that time to not only build ensemble, but to create, to explore movement, and to really get ourselves thinking about any and all of the possibilities that this piece could become. So that first rehearsal was spent not only inviting our participants to better understand this process, to do some ensemble building, as you'll see within the lesson plans, but to also take the time to respond to the prompt themselves and start to brainstorm. What are some characters that might be having these conversations? Where are these conversations happening? What is this piece really about? And so that invited them to do a submission, making a couple submissions of their own that Elizabeth and I had the opportunity to cultivate, connect, and collaborate upon.
Yes, so it was from there, all of the text that we had gathered and all of the creative input from our acting ensemble that allowed us to get to know them as artists. Who are our artists who speak sign language, or who are dancers, or who are musicians? And so it was all of that kind of raw material that Maria and I used to craft the script that we then brought to our second rehearsal.
And during that second rehearsal, we had the opportunity to read through this script, I think just once in its entirety, because we also spent the other half of the rehearsal cultivating a movement piece. And I think that it was so important that we took the time to continue to find moments that would traditionally be so easy and accessible within a traditional rehearsal space, and challenge ourselves and push ourselves to continue having those, despite the fact that we had, a lag on Zoom, and despite the fact that, for some of our ensemble members, it was their first rehearsal, but we really prioritized a lot of the things that we know and love about a traditional rehearsal.
Yeah, and the beauty of Zoom is that we can see everybody all together on one screen, even with the lagging. So we were able to record the group pieces all together and have that feeling of ensemble and the feeling of being in the same room. And then from there, the actors all filmed their own videos at home in their own location so they could control their lighting, they could control their own sound. The tricky part of that is that you don't always have your acting partner in the room with you, so the actors did an excellent job of pausing and talking to that imaginary other to create the same sense of connection and continuity.
We're so excited to be able to share all of the activities that we utilized during this time so that you all can go on to continue to create and cultivate together.
I can hear your applause through the screen. Not really, but I imagine you enjoyed that presentation just as much as they did creating it for you. Wow. Theater is not a building. Theater is us. It makes us think about what theater is and what it can be as we move forward. Sometimes we like to hold on to what is familiar, but it's also prudent to embrace change with an open heart and mind. Well, with that in mind, I would like to introduce to you our keynote speaker, Idris Goodwin. Oh yes. First and foremost, I'd like to say that during the keynote, you can submit questions to our question and answer tab. So if you have something you would like to ask our keynote speaker, please drop it in the chat there at the question and answer tab, okay? Let me tell you a little bit about Idris. Idris is a multidisciplinary arts leader and creative community builder. Across 2 decades, he's forged a multifaceted career as an award-winning playwright, breakbeat poet, director, educator, and organizer. He is the new director of the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center at Colorado College. Idris, man, thank you so much for being here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Idris Goodwin, he, him, his, and I'm excited to get to spend a bit of time with you all for a while. Hopefully, let me know if, I freeze or you can't hear me, or if there's any other, issues as we move along. But I'm gonna just dive right into it. So, I am broadcasting to you today from Louisville, Kentucky. Although I work in a remote capacity for the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center at Colorado College, home to a professional theater, an accredited art museum, and an art school, all 3 of which are closed to the public right now. But we are soldiering on, doing what we can in the virtual, preparing for an eventual reopening. But mainly asking a lot of the questions that everyone's asking. Right now, I say the world is having 2 conversations, both dealing with our humanity. I'm calling this moment the Great Convening, where now more than ever those in policy, in protests, in policing, in public health, in academia, in athletics, and the arts are trying to figure out how to make a difference, how to find a balance between our purpose and our professions, our responsibility to humanity. Now, I believe that societal change involves a shift in policy and a shift in the public's heart and mind. As creatives, artists, storytellers, we deal in hearts and minds. And it's the work that I've been doing for almost 20 years now. So I'm going to share with you today 6 principles, 6 directives, things that I've been thinking about, things that have worked for me in the past. And so the first one is about telling people your name. But beyond that is telling people the story of your name. It was mentioned earlier that I do a lot of things, and one of those things that I do is that I am a breakbeat poet. And so I'm going to share with you first a poem, a breakbeat poem about my name. I always thought the name came out of a book. My mother still has it. It's crude and it's orange and it says African names. Inside African names, it says something like Idris means immortal. But I don't think that's right. My mother's name is Patricia. My father's name is Donald. Their parents are named Thelma, James, Ruth, and also James. They wanted us to have names with throat and vowels. In Detroit, the name was a minority. The black church asked, why you get that boy that African name? Why you get that boy that Muslim name? There are names in the good book, strong apostle names. There are names in the phone book, strong regular names. In the suburbs, the name was a minority. My middle American classmates asked, now is it Idris, Idris, Isidore, Ivan, Iggy? How about I just call you I? How about I just call you E? How about I just call you something other than your name? Age 11, I asked my mom if I can change my name to something else, Mark, Tony, Sean, something else. Being named Idris in North America will arrest people. You must grow patience. That's so exotic. That's so unusual. That sounds Turkish. That's gotta be Greek. Are you Muslim? Age 16, 2 Arab dudes come through my register. They get big-eyed when they see my name tag. They want to know how the name made its way to a Target in suburban Michigan. They're disappointed when I tell them about the book, African Names. Some 10 years later, I'm in the Middle East where they pronounce it beautifully, not all straightened and flattened. They've given it a joyful bounce. Idris is a prophet in the Quran. Age 20, I'm new to Chicago, cleaning cigarette butts out of a restaurant urinal for minimum wage. My boss, a large stereotype of a man with a sport jacket, tinted glasses, turtleneck, and a thick as Mike Ditka's mustache Chicago accent, unzips at the urinal, the one I just cleaned, and then he says, I ain't gonna remember that name of yours. How about I just call you Eddie? And my name became Eddie. But then his assistant suggested he stop for fear I claim cultural insensitivity. The gentleman from the UK tells me the Welsh have a myth. There's Morocco's Moulay Idris, the jazz world's Idris Muhammad, television's Idris Elba. How do you say it? What does it mean? What does it mean? Sounds Turkish, sounds Greek. Are you Muslim? What does it mean? How do you say it? How do you say it? How do you say it? I call myself Idris. That's how my mama says it. But she's probably not saying it right. The first principle is tell the story of your name. Hip hop invited me to tell my own story, to share my point of view in a vernacular that was deep and familiar with me. In crafting our stories poetically, we reflect on our journeys and our feelings, which leads me to number 2, look at your reflection. When you see yourself in a mirror or in a window or in a puddle, you are seeing the light bouncing off your body. What do you carry in that body? Kendrick Lamar says that he has power, poison, pain, and joy inside his DNA. What's in yours? Matter of fact, don't just look at your reflection, describe what is traveling on those beams of light. 3, and this is a tough one. Don't reason away your body's intuitive sense of what is right. Recently, a series of non-Black actors who were voicing animated Black characters like Cleveland from Family Guy or Missy from the Netflix show Big Mouth have stepped down. Even The Simpsons, after 30 seasons and documented criticism, has finally said no Black characters will be voiced by non-Black actors. When explaining why she stepped away from the character Missy, Jenny Slate explains, at the start of the show, I reasoned with myself that it was permissible for me to play Missy because her mom is Jewish and white, as am I. But Missy is also Black, and Black characters on an animated show should be played by Black people. I am struck by the word reasoned, which I feel like in this context is another way of saying convinced. She convinced herself what her body intuitively knew was not right. But wait, Idris, you might be asking. What about when someone like Lin-Manuel Miranda plays Alexander Hamilton, or other Black, Indigenous, Latinx, or Asian actors playing Shakespearean roles, Scottish kings, English dukes, and the like? Well, we live in America, and we know the world that exists beyond the stage. The casting of non-white actors in roles traditionally played by white actors is an intentional act of disruption and a gesture towards equity. So, to have Black characters voiced by non-Black actors increases the disproportionate inequity of opportunities for actors of color. And listen, we ultimately want a new American canon, intersectional Shakespeares, writing roles across the landscape, enough parts for everyone. But back to Jenny Slate. You're gonna find yourself in situations where you are finding yourself reasoning away what doesn't feel right. In those moments, stick a sock in reason's big mouth. 4, don't be afraid. I was standing in a line at Walgreens, wearing my mask, and an older man, maybe mid-60s, walks in looking me dead in my eyes. He asks how I'm doing. I sort of shrug and, I ask him how he's doing. And he's looking perturbed and confused. A former police officer, he tells me, and he just doesn't understand. He says, what don't they get about you're under arrest? If they didn't resist, there wouldn't be a problem. I tell him that they resist because fear is transferable. The fear carried by the officer and officer's past. Our minds fire more negative thoughts than positive. It's a survival mechanism from our more primal days. Fear was a warning to run, to seek shelter, and it's still with us. And it can influence our decisions. Fear is in our DNA. We can't help it, but we can't be driven by it. I look around the country and I see terrified people, even before the virus. A nation so afraid, comforting itself with semi-automatic weapons, hiding behind virtual walls and avatars, condensing thoughts into smirks, emojis, and memes. We talk ourselves out of bravery. Don't be afraid. Be ready. Be vigilant. Be prepared. Be vulnerable. Be flexible. Be strong. Be patient. But don't be afraid. Number 5, be a citizen artist. Just as you study and train and learn the craft of theater, learn the craft of being an engaged citizen. Transfer terms like given circumstances, intention, motivation, being present, saying yes and. Transfer that to being engaged in your community, even virtually. Be a citizen artist. Use your creativity to reimagine and rebuild our broken society. Teach and be taught. Give and request. Call your city council, your mayor, your congresswoman, your governor, your senator. Make demands. Do vote in all elections. Seek out mentors. Mentor someone else. All the world is a stage. Play a part. And finally, this last one, I say to everyone, but especially those of color, especially LGBTQ plus students and listeners with me in this moment. Number 6, be fully, publicly, 6, be fully, publicly, 3-dimensionally visible and publicly alive, and in celebration when you can. I'm gonna leave you all with a final poem. It's from my book called Can I Kick It? The poem is called Another Black Body. This body is mine, but also political. How it stands, how it walks with a bop that's centrifugal. This body was once considered 3/5 of a human. This body birthed by a woman who was birthed by a woman in a city of black alloy. This body fled before the rust settled. This body nomadic, moving through zip codes propelled by static. This body don't do neckties. It wears hoodies, ball caps, t-shirts, sneakers. This body needs freedom. This body stay in headlines, hunted, some say hated, some say this body celebrated when adorned with gold and vests and 9-shot ventilated by Smith & West. This body no hunger, this body starved. Yes, this body get stressed. This body knows love, shows love, never held guns, never sold drugs. This body is black since birth. African American. This body got the DNA of a slave master. This body got a master's degree, and still this body ignorant, sometimes foolish, full of it. This body push iron and keep trying. This body's a gazelle. This body is a lion. This body is a prayer to never know a cell. Got blood, got heart. This body keep moving. This body's a shark. This body's an ocean. This body swings, grooves, move, rhythm, slides, electric. This body don't know how to Dougie. Don't pop bottles, not bubbly. This body pop and lock. They trying to lock this body to a gurney. So this body needs attorneys. It's known rivers, searching for the mountaintop. This body trying to know itself. This body survives, endures, makes mistakes. Wasn't no mistake. This body got 2 hands that clap, salute, give dap. 2 hands, black hands sighted, become fists, legs that sprint when the rope get ignited. Political, the subject and headline of force, centrifugal behind the hashtag. This body is mine to protect, to cherish, mine to deprive. This body is fed well. This body is alive. Thank you all very much. It's been a pleasure. Appreciate y'all.
Wow. Wow. Man, I'm so inspired right now. I am so inspired right now. Wow. So many key points from what you said. I had to take notes in my phone because I want to keep alive some of those concepts. One of my favorite was to be a citizen artist. I mean, I've never even thought about it in that way. And the correlation you made with, the work that you do on stage as an actor is the same way that work we need to show up and do as human beings in our lives, as citizens. Right. That is amazing. How did you come to that realization? That concept?
Well, for me, I'm so informed by the golden age of hip hop, and I love, I love hip hop across all eras, the music, but I'm talking about the spirit of the culture, which was it was community engaged. Hip hop started out in the park. It was DJs just saying, yo, there's gang violence, there's disparity. Let's give the people some joy. Let's bring the people together. And we'll use music to do that. Right. But ultimately what we're doing is we're trying to bring all generations out to see each other and to celebrate, that there's something, it's a Lucille Clifton poem that I'm going to butcher, but it's like, why don't you come celebrate, everything that's tried to kill us and failed, you know what I'm saying? And so that is the spirit that's just informed me. So that's just how I view art. I feel like that's the value of art. Art is about our humanity. It's about reminding us of why life is worth living and worth fighting for. It's saying this is what it means to be alive. This is what it means to be alive. So for me, there's a bridge. It's like I go to rehearsal, I go on stage, I get off stage, I politic with the people. And then I go home. It doesn't stop. There's no cutoff. It's not like, and now I am an actor. It's like, no, we're just, it's all fluid. There's no, dicing it up,
Yeah. And I love that concept of celebration. Even I'm just going to speak from my family. We don't celebrate enough, right? Yeah. And the idea of celebrating on so many levels, it's just opened up permission. To celebrate. So thank you for that. I'm going to take a question. We got a question here from Samantha Stern. Hey, girl, hey. The question or the comment is, as artists, as citizens, how can we best respond to fear and anger?
Well, like I say, it's transferable. So, I think it's all about self-reflection. I think you must know thyself. and recognize that there are things just we're just hardwired as a species. We're skeptical because we're so fragile. So we're constantly like, don't touch that, don't go over there, right? And that's not a bad thing, but you have to know that, and that has to, and everything that's fired in that way, it doesn't mean that's right. That doesn't mean you have to accept it, you know? And so I think it just goes back to this constant thing that every society does, which is what's right and what's wrong. We're constantly wrestling with our morals and values. It's like when all these people are coming out and apologizing for blackface that they did back in the day, right? It's because of where the culture was at the time. There was a time in the culture where there was a majority of people that considered that acceptable, that was right, or there was enough gray area. Now it's very clear that that's not cool anymore, right? It's never been cool. You know, it's never been cool, but I'm saying like collectively, right? So for me, it's only like that's the work internally, is you got to know yourself and you got to have the patience and humility. Like I always joke and say, my mother's from the east side of Detroit. And so that's just in me. And I just pop off sometimes. Like when I get whistled, I pop off. But I had to learn, like, you're feeling that's in you, but you know what? Actually go take a walk. Don't respond. Don't send that text back. Don't email back. Take some time. And if you feel that way still, go ahead. But 9 out of 10, that's just my gut. That's just the east side of Detroit in me.
Yeah.
But that don't mean I gotta act on that. You know? There's an understanding of what's in you versus what you do, the choices you make.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Out into the world, right? What you offer up, and that's the work I think we all got to do.
All right. That's good. I have another question here from Will Rhymes. It says, good morning. Good morning to you. Thank you for being here. How are you keeping theater alive in your own community?
Oh, that's a great question. So most of my entree, there's a few different ways. One is, one of my biggest entree into the world of theater is that I write. I'm a playwright. So this lockdown happened, I did not break stride. I've been writing plays for Zoom. I've been writing plays for people to do on flatbed trucks. I'm still writing plays that were commissioned before. It's whatever. Like, I'll write a play in a matchbook. Like, I don't care. Like,
right.
The crisis is really about one particular model of theater. So theater as an art form, as a craft, has survived all types of plagues and revolutions and everything. And that's because the root of the word theater is just the seeing place. So artists, construct seeing places, right? But there's also political theater, and there's theaters just happening all the time, right? So the what is in danger right now is the model that we were all involved in that suddenly got disrupted, right? So for me, I'm just continuing to transition and move that art form into that practice in the different spaces. The other way I would say was continuous. I just put out a collection called Free Plays, Open Source Scripts for an Anti-Racist Tomorrow. I know that a lot of families are home right now. There's a lot of teachers teaching virtually, and I know the country, the world really is talking about anti-racism. So this is a lot of the content of my plays. So I basically put out 5 plays that are multi-generational, that are aimed at younger readers, families and their kids to read together. It's 5 of them, and they're all about, they're invitations to have conversations about race. So I put that out on June 15th, those dropped, and they're free and open to any and all. If you're
so we can just Google that and it'll pop up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So those are the 2 primary ways.
Great. All right, we have another question here, and we're going to have to wrap up our questioning here shortly. I'm just having a great time. Are you guys having a great time? Let us know in the chat. It says, as artists, how can we grow and learn while there is COVID-19? And I think you just touched on that a little bit as well during this time.
Listen, this is the time to do it. It's time to, we were distracted. We were running all over the place.
Yep. Distracted.
And listen, there are resources, and I'm going to tell everybody on here this, like, I'm going to put this on like all my social media platforms as soon as I get off of this. Like, there are links, there are lots of ways to get involved, lots of ways. And right now, again, the world is having 2 conversations. The world is talking about public health, and the world is talking about race, injustice, equity. You know what I'm saying? The world is having, and how they intersect. This is a convening. We're finding how all these things relate. Prison industrial complex, gender bias,
Yes.
you know what I mean? All these things are intersecting now. We're getting to see and understand that this is about abuse of power. This is about a false sense of priorities, people not taking care of each other, because we could have been avoided all this stuff. We could have been avoided all this violence, this police violence. We could have fixed all this. So after we chat, I'm gonna drop wild links. I'm just at Idris Goodwin on Twitter's,
okay,
Insta, whatever. I'm gonna put mad links that people can follow.
Thank you so much, man. As I am looking in the chat right now, it is blowing up because people are inspired. They are inspired. My heart is beating fast because I feel like I've had a call to arms here today. And I'm inspired. And I thank you so much for sharing your heart, sharing your talent, and sharing your wisdom with us today. Good brother, we appreciate you. We see you and we validate you in this moment. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. Everybody stay safe, okay?
Yes. Have a good one.
Peace.
Wow, man, I got chill bumps, guys. I'm so excited. Wow, just what we needed for such a time as this. And as Idris was talking, the question was coming up, what is next? Well, action. Okay, action steps, a plan, and a conversation is next. So this is where you all help us, okay? So in effort to move forward with purposeful action, we would like you to take a part in a survey, all right? And it's not long, 3 questions, okay? Help us out. We were just talking about action. Like many things in life right now, we wish we could give you more answers. But before we make decisions about what FTC is going to look like in the fall of 2020, we want to do the wise thing. We want to ask you. We want to hear from you. So we're going to use Zoom's polling feature right now to gather a few responses from you. The first question is, which division are you actively involved in with Florida Theater Conference? Is it college and university, community theater, high school, inclusion, middle school, professional, or youth theater? Okay, next question. At this point, which of these conference formats are you most likely to attend? Virtual, in person, or a hybrid, meaning virtual and in person? Which of these elements is most useful to you in a virtual FTC gathering? Would it be opportunities to engage with fellow conference goers, interactive virtual workshops, keynote presentations from leaders in the field, or performance opportunities? Which one would be most useful to you? Thank you so much. If you have any more questions or comments that you would like to share with us, we would love to hear from you as we move forward with strategizing and how we can come together as an organization. We are dropping a link in the chats so that you can submit those questions and comments to us within the next week or so, okay? With this input that we just gathered from you, the next step is smaller group conversations within our division in early July so that we can start to plan out what this will look like. Your division chair will reach out to you with more details, okay? So we drop that right into the chat right there for you so that you have access to it, okay? Thank you again for joining us today. We hope you are leaving totally inspired, as I know I am. Now, here to bring you final thoughts, please welcome the Florida Theater Conference Executive Director, Stephen Butler.
Thank you so much. Wow, this webinar has been exciting. It has been an exciting process for us at FTC. And at this time, we'd like to give some mad props and thanks to Laura Osnes for a wonderful introduction, Idris Goodwin for his inspirational keynote, also to Elizabeth Brindle Horn, for without her, this webinar would not have been possible. And without her vision and leadership to make it happen, I'll tell you, it would not have happened. And so thank you so much, Elizabeth. We also want to thank, of course, her dynamic duo, Maria and Sage. And let's not forget the FTC members who contributed to the devised piece. I'd also like to thank Gary, Marcy, Brad, and of course, the rest of our FTC Board of Directors. And our biggest thanks goes out to you, our members. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for letting us hear your voices through the polls we presented earlier. Now, if you'd like to provide additional input, we'd love to hear from you. We have created an appendix poll that will allow you to provide a narrative. Now, Elizabeth has dropped the link in the survey in the chat. But don't worry if you're unable to access it. Like I said, don't worry. We'll be sending that out to everyone else after this session. Now, if I may, there is an enormous amount of change that is happening in our country, and the same with FTC. Our newly revised mission statement reads, Florida Theater Conference connects, nurtures, and supports Florida diverse theater community. And this webinar is just one way we connect with our membership. But I also want to speak briefly on the topic of social awareness surrounding racism. The youngest of our FTC membership are bearing witness to a monumental social awakening and shift. When they have the opportunity to come back to the classroom, whatever that might look like, they will certainly be filled with questions. And hopefully you, as educators, will help them express their world through the performing arts. Therefore, we'd like to invite you to our newly designed FTC website at flatheater.org and check out our Equity, Diversity, and Access resource page. You'll find on this page the FTC Equity Statement, along with informational links to articles, books, classroom resources, research reports, and scripts, all centered around nurturing our students and supporting their entrusted educators. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, thank you, thank you. And please remember to be kind to yourself and stay creative. Okay, Marcy, back to you.
All right. As we dismiss the meeting, we will leave up a screen with the names and emails of the Florida Theater Conference division chairs. We'll be reaching out to you soon to schedule our focus groups for each division, but don't hesitate to contact us, okay? Please follow us on social media. We want to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining us, and please enjoy your weekend.